Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Back to Backlog podcast with me, Lindsay, and
Sam.
today we're here to talk about some indie games. But before that, Sam, what have you been playing?
So I was still finishing up playing Dot Hack Link from our RPG episode because it was a long game and I did want to finish it. I did had to put it down for a little while to play some of our indies again to refresh my memory and to explore. But I picked it up again for some post game even. And then I've been following a game called X Zodiac, which is kind of like a Star Foxy kind of game, and that came out with its like early release. So I've been checking that out. It's a bit harder than I can handle, but it's really fun. So I'll give it another few shots, and then I've just been excitedly, hanging out with my local New Hampshire game dev community. I got a buddy who's really working hard on some VR tools, and I got some folks who work at a little studio in downtown, and we had our game dev meetup. So that was really fun. It's been a while, and those guys are just peak quality people.
Very nice.
Yeah. What about you?
So I did not play Doom Eternal. I had every intention to, and then one day my friend sent me an invite for Back for Blood. I jumped in his Discord. I'm like, hey, can't play that. I don't own it. And then he's like, yeah, you do now. So I've been playing that with them, and then on my own.
Was that the same night you invited me along?
Yeah, it was the same night.
That
might have been the following day. I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why it got such bad reviews. I really like it. Like, it plays a lot like Left 4 Dead. It feels like Left 4 Dead. I know that it has some issues. There's some like frame rate issues and some rubber banding that happens.
Yeah, but like the part I care about, like the core cooperativeness, like the zombies,
Yep.
and the specials and the levels. It feels like a Left 4 Dead 5. Like we
Yep.
just skipped over 3
Yeah.
and 4. Like
I mean, and it's supposed to feel that way.
it's good.
Because I think it's like at least one of the original developers from.
I did try to load it up on my Steam Deck, but I will say,
No.
the resolution, even when you're hooking up to a
No.
TV, the resolution's too low.
Yeah.
The game demands the higher res to play for sure.
Yeah.
This is why while some games can technically run on a Steam Deck, sometimes they will still mark it as not supported or like playable but not verified, because they're like, yeah, you can, but we don't recommend it.
Actually, a couple of the games that were not verified before that I wanted to play, like that Hyperdimension Neptunia game I had trouble with, that's verified now, so I re-downloaded it.
Ooh,
nice. So I'm going to give that a go. But I also played a bunch of Calico, because it's adorable, and I loved it. And then Forager, which is apparently it's like a Humble Bundle original game, which is really cool, and you're just this little dude like crafting and buying little islands or like land to like build onto your little island, and you're getting resources, fighting things. It's really addicting. Like I don't even know how many hours, definitely more than 10 hours into it in the past week.
I definitely noticed the little pop-up of Lindsay's playing Forager.
It's like I was playing it right before I went to bed. Nice. Yeah, it's really fun. I really recommend it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, some recent indies is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
I will say a lot of the indies we're going to be talking about, especially to start, are not so recent. But the sort of indie explosion happened. It basically happened as soon as it was possible to self-publish more easily.
I didn't play a lot of these titles when they came out because, one, I mean, I was in college, so I had no money.
Yeah.
And if I did have money for a video game, it was probably going to be like I was going to buy it for 3DS, or it was going to be like a AAA title. So I didn't play a lot of these until a lot more recently. And honestly, they've all aged really well for being some of them 10 plus years old.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they have. And I was, yeah, I was super big into a lot of these indies because they were all around the time I had picked up like a PlayStation 3, and they were all a lot cheaper than big titles. As a
Yeah.
college kid, that was
Mhm.
great. Um, and as somebody who has been hobbyist making games for a while, it was really cool to see small teams making these things.
I didn't buy that many video games in college. I definitely just played the same like 5 games on. Woo! Sorry, my cat just jumped. His closet adventure is over. I opened the closet door so he could have an adventure and leave me alone. I'm pretty sure that thump was audible.
Oh
Pretty
yeah,
sure we recorded that.
nice.
um, but I think I just played the same like 5 games on repeat, whether it was for, and I only got like one video game a year, and it was generally for my Christmas gift, maybe two if there was like a Pokemon game out that I'd buy for myself.
Mm,
Um, but like between the consoles, because I owned a Wii, uh, not even a 3DS. I'm sorry, a Wii, an original DS, and or I guess it was a DS Lite and a 360, and I still had my PS2.
yep.
Those are the things I had access to, which were pretty modern at the time.
Heck
But
yeah. Yeah,
just
they were.
games are expensive.
Mm.
I mean,
But
they
yeah,
still are, but
yeah, to caveat here, we're definitely not going to be talking about every tentpole indie game. There's so many, like we had to cut ourselves off at a certain point based on what we've played. Um,
such a huge list.
and I know that I have to say it, like the actual original wave of indie games was all like obscure PC titles, like your Corpse Parties or your Yumenikis or your PC 98 titles, like people in their basements making games because the internet was a thing, right? But this is stuff that came. I think mostly what we're talking about is stuff where an independent developer was able to publish on a console, which was like
Huge.
super new because it was all that 7th generation eShop, PSN, XBLA explosion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like that was the start of developer tools getting easier with things like XNA, the first couple releases of Unity, um, even on Unreal, like was finally like an engine that you could purchase in that generation for the first time. Like it was still expensive at the time, but like this was when tools got a lot easier too.
I think it's when a lot of people started downloading. Like my Steam tells me I first started my account in 2011.
Mhm.
So I think that's probably when people were
Yeah,
starting
well,
that trend
and
too.
this is when the first few humble bundles would have been.
Yeah, I bought the
Um,
first couple that were for like phones.
yeah, yeah, I remember supporting the first few humble bundles, and actually for quite a while, because they made a big point about having Linux support very early, because one of the developers had a very good experience with the Linux community when he made a release for Linux. He got like a ton of sales from the Linux community, which people used to say, "Oh, those geeks just want everything for free." So nobody would make games for Linux because they just want it all for free, which to some extent was true, but to some extent we were starved for games. We would buy anything
Mm-hmm.
that would come out, even if I didn't know if I'd like the game. I'd just buy it just to support the developer, like supporting like that the OS I run.
Yep.
So for sure, like this was a crazy seminal time for a lot of things.
My first Humble Bundle purchase was Humble Indie Bundle 3 on August 5th, 2011. I just looked it up. I spent $6 on it.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, I definitely remember backing the first Humble. That was so good. Uh,
yeah.
I think the earliest game we have on here is Spelunky. Um, Now I've definitely played a ton of Spelunky. I don't think you have.
Mm-mm.
So there was a classic version of Spelunky that I don't know if it actually came to consoles. I don't remember. That was made in 2008. Later on, there was the Xbox Live release which I think was the actual first time it went to consoles, and they rewrote the game entirely from scratch. So it's kind of the Spelunky H. So the old version is rebranded Spelunky Classic, and you can still play it. But the Spelunky that's out there now is the 2012 release. It is this really cool. It's a roguelite. It's like procedurally generated um, platformer where you're going through little like caves, and you're going from the top left, and you're trying to get all the way to the bottom of each level. And every so many levels, the like biome changes, right? So it's like a bog standard dirt cave to begin with, and then you go into the jungle, and then you go into the ice caverns, I want to say, and then like the lava area, and there's like some secret areas that if you can end up in some secret biomes like the bees, if you take certain paths that come up randomly, of course. So lots of really cool little gizmos and gadgets. You're always throwing ropes down so you can climb down safely. You can blow, like the terrain is destructible. Like you can drop bombs, and if you find a shotgun, I guess you can blow a hole in the wall, so you can destroy the
Kaboom.
terrain as you go. And there's just like a lot of little cool little monsters and nuisances like the monkeys and things. And every once in a while, you'll come across a merchant. Don't shoot or blow up the merchant or steal their items, or the merchant will hunt you down at the end of every single level from then on. Very,
Murder.
very Zelda inspired in that way. Um, a little more extreme, of course. And then every single level has a damsel. I think the original game, the damsel was only like this blonde lady, but in the re-release, they made it so you could choose between the blonde lady, a blonde dude, or a like a pug. And I always pick the pug because he's
Yeah,
so
that's the
cute.
natural choice.
And so when you get closer to the damsel, you'll hear them like crying out for help. So the pug will start whining like, "Woo!" And you have to save. And if you bring the damsel to the end of the level, they will kiss you at like as you walk into the exit, and you'll get an extra. It's like the only way to get extra health back after losing health in the levels. It's really cute when the dog like licks you. It's a really cool like little Indiana Jones. It reminds me a lot of some old DOS games I used to play, to be honest. Um, and it's very brilliantly designed. I remember reading in there's a book called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels on the development of a bunch of different games, and one of them I think was Spelunky. Either that or it's the same publisher, and they published a standalone book that I read. But the technology is really simple. The way he built it is really interesting, and it's a really fun game. And I know there is a sequel. I didn't care for the sequel as much because it didn't add as much as I hoped. But that's fine. That's totally fine. So yeah. And then I guess after Spelunky Classic would have been made. Um, well, okay. So one of the big things that got me super excited about indie games was Indie Game the movie, because I always need to see how the sausage is made. I'm always listening to like the behind the scenes commentary and stuff on things. So Indie Game the movie was huge because it was the first of its kind for games. There was just nothing documentary wise on people who make games, not really. So I know I kind of I forced you to watch it.
I mean, it was enjoyable. Like,
Yeah.
you quote unquote forced me, but I did like. It's really hard to get me to do something that I don't want to do, and I did buy it on the Steam store. So
Yeah, for them achievements.
yeah, yep, yeah, right.
they're pretty
Sell my soul to Valve.
silly achievements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Into the Game the movie follows three games: Braid, Super Meat Boy, and Fez.
Braid is the
Um,
one that I have not played.
yeah. Um, so Braid, it was made by Jonathan Blow in 2008, or his team, number none, and it's a puzzle platformer where you can rewind time, or like yes, yeah, you can rewind time, and all of the puzzles are some crazy mind-bending things. And it's very, your character, it's very Mario, right? Your character is Mario but in a suit and tie. he jumps on Goombas, except they're like super high res, painterly looking.
He looks so creepy. Like his face is so unsettling though.
Oh yeah, the
It's
little
so
Goomba enemies,
unsettling.
they are
Like,
unsettling.
do you know those like Halloween masks from like the 1950s that are just like supposed to look like a person but they're just horrific? That's
Yeah.
what it reminds me of.
No, that's totally fair. That is totally fair. Um, yeah, so it's a really interesting puzzle platformer, and um, there's a really interesting twist at the end that I like. Some people find very pretentious, and like, yeah, I think it is a little pretentious in general, but like, that's not always a bad thing if you're in the
Mm-mm.
mood for it. um, but Braid is a really interesting time rewinding puzzle platformer. Um, I think one of the elements I really liked was that there's these keys that are out of time. You can pick up this key and then like you rewind time, but the key stays where it is. That those puzzles are always interesting challenge. So I like that a lot. Yeah. So I think you want to talk about the next game a little bit?
Yeah. So the next one that they talked about, or one of the others out of the three that they talked about in the indie game movie, was Super Meat Boy, which I adore. I think the main character, even though he is missing all of his skin, is adorable. Um, and it's a platformer. You are a little meat dude who is going through trying to save your girlfriend who is bandages. And I think the really fun part about this is there's a lot of traps and perils, but you are a sticky piece of meat, so you can stick yourself to the wall to kind of like get around the big swinging blades. I also think the two people that made it have like hearts of gold.
Oh yeah.
Their
Oh my
stories were
god.
definitely, I think, my favorite.
Yeah, Ed
Um,
McMillan and Tommy
yeah.
Rayfin. Oh my god, they're so sweet. Yeah,
Well,
definitely make sure to watch the like follow up
yeah, I will. Oh yeah,
specials.
I just wanted to hug everybody
Oh yeah,
involved.
yeah. The follow ups are great because it's like, oh, they're successful and they like can
Yeah.
eat
Well,
food
and it was
now.
funny watching it coming from a place knowing that all three of these games have been wildly successful and, a decade later still are very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that knowing I definitely understand the uncertainty of them at the time because what they were doing was brand new. It was
Oh
scary.
yeah.
They were giving up their lives, their time, their livelihoods, their relationships to make these games that they were hoping would
It's
make
crazy.
them a little bit of money.
Yep.
And it really just all three of these games really just blasted open the door for a lot of other, people to come in and, be successful.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I will say the thing that is important to note as a background is that all three of these games that they talk about, Braid, Super Meat Boy, and later we'll talk about Fez, um, they were not the absolute like first projects that were made by these people,
no,
but they were definitely the first like major
successful ones.
successes, right?
Well, and I think that they were the first ones that were like published on like the Xbox marketplace.
Yeah,
Like they were
a
the
huge
first.
deal.
Because I know that one of the creators, I think it was Edmund McMillan, had been doing. I just forgot the name of the platform with the Flash games.
Oh, Newgrounds.
Yeah, he did Newgrounds games.
Yeah, I mean, so the original Meat Boy, the non-super, was a Newgrounds game.
Mm-hmm.
Was a tiny little Newgrounds game, which is really interesting to play. Having played Super Meat Boy, you're like, oh, whoa, this is the like the demake almost, but it was made first. Like,
Yep.
um, yeah, Super Meat Boy is just fantastic. The amount of control that you have in the air, it asks you to do really precise things that you feel like there's no way I'll ever do it.
But
And for
it's
the most part,
easier than you
after a
think.
little bit, I ended up able to do almost all of it.
Me too.
I got to the very end and I couldn't do the final one, but I was okay with that because I had so much success the journey
Yeah.
through.
I agree with
Um,
that. And
yeah,
I am
and
piss poor at most platformers. Like I enjoy them, but I just get very frustrated because I don't have the best timing. I don't have the best like
yeah,
perception of space,
hmm
which makes
hmm
those games pretty difficult.
yeah,
But I really, out of all of the platformers I played that we'll talk about later and some that we're not going to talk about, Super Meat Boy was one of my favorites.
yeah. It has a special place in my heart because it was the first game um, that my so I gaming is a huge hobby for me, and I wanted to share that with my wife. And like it was Super Meat Boy was the first game that like super captivated her, and she like played most of the way through, and like she loves it. And it was such a good feeling to be able to share. Like I didn't think that like this rage inducing fest would be the thing that like hooked her, but like oh my god, it was the best thing ever watching her swear at the TV. um like that was great. So that was the first time I really shared a game with my wife. So that has a special place in my heart for sure.
That's a better story than my boyfriends and I. The first game that we really played together, because it was Neverwinter, which is a money grabbing
Oh no.
monstrosity.
Oh no.
I'll have to talk about it someday, but like I had such a bad experience. Like I liked it until I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And then their customer service is awful and they lied to me. So
Oh.
but we've played a lot of games since then. So that was just I think one of the first when we first started dating.
Yeah. So because I know I've played it a lot more, I'll let you give your first impressions of Fez, because I think you just played it recently.
I did. I love the way it looks. I can definitely tell the care that was put into the game. But I have such awful spatial awareness issues. Like it is
Oh
like
right, yeah. I didn't think
I
that.
can't even load a dishwasher without it looking like like a toddler did it.
Yeah, that is a huge barrier for this
Yeah,
game.
like it. I love it, and I played it for probably about 45 minutes, and then I'm just like I kept getting lost, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. So I appreciate the game for what it is, but it is not for me. Don't think it's one I'm going to be
That's
revisiting either, because I was just so frustrated, and it's not even like a sense of frustration that like. Super Meat Boy, I was frustrated because I'm like, okay, but I could kind of see the path forward.
right. Yeah, Meat Boy is a let's go again. I
Yeah,
could have just done that a little bit
and
better.
I
A little
have
bit.
like a much better mentality for that than which way did I get here? How the hell did I get here?
Oh yeah,
Like I
yeah.
ended up back at the start somehow, and I thought I was going
Mm-hmm.
in the right direction, and I'm like, okay, that's it for me. I'm done.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Yep. That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
I will
So,
say, watching the indie game movie, watching him go to PAX East was a trip because I've been to PAX East many times. So like when they were in Boston, I was like, I know where that is. Like, hey,
yeah.
because it's been in the same place forever.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. I wasn't there the year he was there. I think the first year I went was 2013, because I was out of college and had money and a
Mm-hmm.
car. But yeah, it's like a very like not visceral, like a very good memory because like PAX
Yeah.
East, like it's even though there's different attractions every year, it's set up the same.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see. Like even when he was just like looking out the window of the convention center, I was like, I've been there. I know where that is.
So cool. Yeah, I love
Mm-hmm.
that connecting like that on
Mm-hmm.
there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And he definitely like put his like heart and soul into this game. So yeah, I played it to completion, to like the 212% completion.
Oh my god, I
um
couldn't.
the thing is, like
I'd cry.
I didn't do it on my own. Like I did as much on my own as I could, like 100 and something%. And then it is very much a game intended for you to either take like a notebook out and write things down and like solve puzzles on your own, come back to the game, which was his sort of experience. He was trying to emulate that experience
Mm-hmm.
of playing the original Zelda in that
Yep.
way, but it was like it was an internet game. Like
I
it was a
don't think I
game where
could
you
even
would
finish this game with a guide.
it was a game where you consulted the internet and be like, "Oh my god, hey, where are these secrets? Oh yeah, the community, we all got together and we talked about it. We found out that this room has a QR code, which you scan, you do this thing." And then like the internet figured out the secret alphabet that's in the game, because there is a post with every single letter of the secret alphabet, and next to it is a quick brown fox jumping over the lazy dog, which is like a standard sentence that uses every single letter of the English alphabet, that they put in like font managers. Like when you're choosing your font, like that's one of the phrases that you used to see a lot, because it's a sentence that contains every single letter. So then they went, oh my gosh, because there's an actual sprite of of like a fox jumping over a dog in. And so they realized that they looked at this post and oh my gosh, that's what the sentence reads on this post. Now we know what all the secret letters are, and now you can go around like deciphering everything. It was intense. I won't say it wasn't ridiculous and crazy, and I definitely followed a guide a lot of the time. Like the game is intended so that you find all of the normal cubes without going crazy, but then all of, like the negative cubes, all the like past 100% stuff, is all the stuff that's fair game to be crazy hard puzzles. And I definitely use a lot of walkthroughs. The stuff you unlock at the end post game are incredible. You can unlock a first person mode where you can see the game in actual like 3D, not like flattened. And past that, there was a stereoscopic mode where it was like it was the like red cyan, like so you could put on the 3D glasses and see it in first person in like eye popping old school 3D. It was incredible. It's insane. Um, I guess for listeners who haven't played Fez, um, we should explain it is a
Oh yeah, that would be
platformer.
helpful.
It is a platformer where the puzzle is simply the fact that you can rotate the world, and it's kind of like echochrome in the sense that like what you see is the truth. So despite wherever the platforms would be in a real 3D space, it doesn't matter. If the platform looks like it's below you, it's below you. So you rotate the world and it moves things around. And the puzzle is just trying to figure out where to rotate, when to rotate, um, to get to wherever you want to explore.
Yeah,
Um,
because sometimes you rotate and you see a door that you didn't see before, but you have to rotate several more times to get to it.
Yep.
Um,
Sometimes you'll grab like a post and rotate the world to have your character like um like pirate ship style, like how they have those posts attached to the wheel that they all turn, like that sort of thing. Yeah. So and the little dude is super cute, and the pixel art is
it
gorgeous.
is like it's beautiful. Like Fez is like it's like the little dude's adorable. It kind of reminds me. I thought it was made by the same like that and Forager were made by the same people because they have kind of a similar like white, all
Okay, I can
white
kind of
little
see it.
dude. But they're not. They're not made by the same people at all.
I
They're
will say
very different games.
I am really sad because it was a really weird time in the industry, and um, the indie game the movie brought and the success of Fez brought a lot of fame, but also a lot of like harsh, weird critics. And you remember like TV and magazine critics at the time could be absolutely brutal to like these indie people
Mm-hmm.
because they're used to criticizing big corporations.
Not
But
like
like
two people.
you're not gonna hurt a corporation's feelings if you're like a complete dick, but you will absolutely. And shortly, like a month after he announced Fez 2, he announced that he was just leaving like games and Twitter, and he was just
Oh,
done
I
with
mean,
everything.
Twitter is still a cesspool. Like I
Oh
barely
yeah,
use it because it's just so bad. I think it's maybe like the most toxic of all of the social media platforms, or at least the big ones, at least. Um,
yeah. I mean,
if
it can be. I know. Personally, I follow mostly game dev topics, and it's pretty reasonable. But I also like don't have to like befriend my like family members that I don't necessarily agree with their viewpoints. Like I don't necessarily have randos. It's easy to block. So I guess
yeah,
it can be how you curate it, but like
but if
for
you're a
sure
big content creator and you can't,
you can't be
you know,
blocking
and you
everyone.
can't, I think that's when it gets really toxic, and it still is really toxic. Like it's
That's
still
fair. So
like,
yeah, unfortunately, I'm really sad that Phil Fish basically just like quit everything because I would have
yeah.
loved to have seen Fez 2, but at least he did an interview recently on the 10-year anniversary of Fez, and it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice reading that.
That's
So
good.
because it's been a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so those were three really good games that were all featured in this one landmark film, and I do think that some of the follow on extra stuff does cover Spelunky as well, a little bit.
Oh,
So
good to know.
yeah,
Yeah.
so moving on past that, we have Limbo. which
I had some trouble with this game. I had found it very hard. I know it's supposed to be hard to navigate, but I had a hard time with this one. Like, it's
oh, okay.
beautiful. It looks really cool.
Yeah,
But I definitely had a hard time figuring out like what to do. And I definitely
gotcha.
stepped on many bear traps.
Oh no. Yeah, so yeah, Limbo was released by Playdead in 2010, and it is a sort of,
Like black and white flat platformer.
yeah, it's very
Mm-hmm.
shadows, like shadow puppet, shadow people on other shadows, like it is black on gray on black,
Mm-hmm.
for
It
sure.
looks beautiful. Like it
Oh,
looks
it's
really cool.
gorgeous. Yeah, it definitely has that sort of like, it's a platformer, but it's like there's a lot of physics. It's not like
Yeah.
your standard Mario. It's like your modern indie game that has like physics driven
Yeah.
platforming
Sometimes you
stuff.
have to drag like a crate or a boat
Yeah, and sometimes
somewhere.
there's like a swinging chain, and like that chain is going to be flopping about, not doing the same thing literally every time.
Yep.
Um,
Or
but
you have to like there's a rope with like a dead body on it that you have
oh,
to like
shimmy,
catch.
shake.
Yeah, or you have to catch the dead body in one of the bear traps so it's lighter so you can like the tree
Oh,
that
yep.
the rope is on is a little bit taller so you can swing to the next zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Spider warning for any arachnophobes. Definitely some giant spiders in this. Um, I like it. Um, it's just very mysterious.
Yeah, I think the most frustrating part about it is knowing how to solve the puzzle but not knowing how to figure it out. Like the first spider that you see, like I know that I'm supposed to get those traps out of the tree and put them, near the spider legs so the spider legs get cut off. But can I get to that tree? Cannot do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But it's beautiful. Like it's really cool looking.
yeah, and it's
Um,
it's relatively short.
yeah. I say
it's a
yeah, like
few.
I finished it.
It's a few hours. If you've played it before, like if it's obvious to you, sort of thing. The figuring it out adds time, of course,
Hmm.
always. Um, but yeah, so I like Limbo a lot. It was really good, and I like their follow up that they've done more recently, which we maybe will have to follow back around to some other time. But yeah, so the last sort of seventh generation game that we have on our list is Bastion.
This one
Released.
is a. It's like I think it's somewhere between like a platformer and a roguelike. Like it's not a traditional platformer.
Well, there's no jumping at all, right? I don't
There's
think
a
there
little
was.
bit, I think.
Oh, okay. It's kind of it's a top down sort of
There's no jumping,
brawler.
but the you don't have to jump, but like the trail a lot of time behind you disappears.
Oh yeah, yeah. It kind of feels like a straightforward, like linear. Just that top-down view perspective always give
Yeah.
me sort of like Diablo vibes, but it's not a Diablo game
No, it's
for sure.
definitely not an ARPG.
No. There's definitely like this story that they're telling about this world that's post-apocalyptic. Um, it is Supergiant Games' first game. They've made many follow-ups, Transistor and Pyre and Hades. Um,
Oh, they beat Hades?
yes.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah, and you
that.
can tell by their art style. They have a very particular art style. I don't remember who the artists that are on this
Yeah.
that
The
made
rest
this
of them I
style.
saw. Like I could
Um,
pick it out, but yeah, I
yeah,
didn't realize Hades was.
and I think the thing I like most about the atmosphere of Bastion is the narrator.
I love a
Um,
narrator.
and most of their games have had a narrator because they've had a really wonderful voice actor doing the narration. He's doing this sort of like deep southern drawl, and the kid
Mm-hmm.
went and did this action, and then the kid made this decision. He didn't know about the enemies on the other side of the door. Funny enough, the guy who's the Bastion voice actor, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering this right, he did the first few trailers for the Humble Bundle,
Oh,
like
yeah, that would
trailers.
make a certain amount of sense. I'm pretty sure that I got Bastion from one of those very early Humble Bundles.
Yeah, definitely one of the major proponents of that thing. So I remember the trailers being really interesting and having narration. I'm pretty sure it must have been I could be wrong, but
The
I,
music
I,
is really
I think
good
I
too.
recall. Yeah. So yeah, Bastion's really really fun. I really liked it,
Yeah, I
and
had
I
a
like
blast.
all of their games. So like highly recommend Bastion. Just like really good storytelling,
Hmm.
especially because of the narrator,
Yeah.
which you don't always get like super in depth story from some of the early indie games, just because story takes a lot longer, voice acting takes a lot of work, writing takes a lot of time. But when you just do it all as narration, it kind of like shortcuts something in a
Hmm.
really interesting way.
Yeah, I think the narration was really brilliant. I think it was really well done and added just this really unique layer to an
Hmm.
already really interesting and unique game.
Yeah, and I like that every game from Supergiant Games takes this basic formula of gameplay and art style and builds upon it and does something new and interesting with it. So, and Bastion being, yes, the first. So, yeah. And then I guess we have to transition here into our sort of eighth generation. You know, the PS4 is out, the Xbox is out, there's more powerful PCs, and all of like the game engines are starting to make themselves free for indies. Like Unity becomes free for indies, Unreal at a certain point halfway through here becomes free for indies. Free until you make a certain amount of money, sort of license. Like there's just more going on. It's easier to make stuff. And everyone's been inspired by this sort of first generation of eShop. So there's just a lot of really interesting stuff going on. And one of the things I wanted to talk about for sure was um,
Ironically, not a computer game.
yeah, but on the other hand, like a different kind of online store revolution with the iOS store. There was a ton of games coming out for the
Hmm.
iPhone first, and then maybe Android later, just because people were more willing to spend money on iPhones, and that's understandable for a developer trying to make a living. Um, but one of Lambier's games, Dutch independent studio Lambier, um, in 2013 was Ridiculous Fishing. Um, there was a lot of notoriety around this because it was infamously cloned, and they the Vlambeer made a big stink about the cloning, and they're like, "Hey, what the heck? You can't just start making a bunch of money off of completely copying our game," and rightly so. Um, but the game is it's lovely. It's so fun and just silly, and like with a name like Ridiculous Fishing, that makes sense. Um, it's really colorful. What happens is you pick your lure and your like fishing spot, and you drop the lure, and then you are the lure. Like you're helping navigate the lure to avoid fish and other things as much as possible until you get to the bottom of your fishing line as much as possible. And then um, if you hit the bottom of your fishing line, or if you hit a fish, then you start going up again, and you're trying to collect as many fish on the way up as possible, and you get money and you can unlock new lures. Like really just ridiculous things in there. And it's just really cute art style. It's really fun, and it was a lovely game. And unlike a lot of mobile games, like there's an ending. Like there's a real proper, like, you beat these 5 areas, and then you get down to this bottom, and you unfish this one thing that I won't spoil, and like then you get credits. There's an ending. It's great. So I really liked Ridiculous Fishing, and I've enjoyed a lot of Lambier's other games as well. But I thought it was worth mentioning an iOS game, or a phone game, I guess. I say iOS because the Android version is no longer available.
As we just found out.
Yeah, and this happens with a lot of phone games where the game doesn't get updated, but the sort of the phone operating system requirements do, and so you get vaporware and abandonware like that, unfortunately.
A lot of
So,
them do get moved to Steam. Like I know World of Goo is on Steam and has
hmm.
been for a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that was available for like everything.
Was it? I didn't realize it. I knew it was.
Oh yeah, I played
I
it
didn't
on the
realize
Wii.
it was
I
Steam right
played it.
away.
Yeah, I played it on the Wii, and I played it on the computer.
Oh.
Yeah.
I got it. That was one of the ones I got for the phone first because it was from a humble Android
Ah,
bundle.
Gotcha.
I distinctly
Gotcha.
remember, and that's the only game I played that I got from that pack. But
That was a fun, weird game.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm
now we
excited
have
about the next
we
one.
have an odd one out in terms of development because it's the only game on the list that was made with the Source engine, aka the game engine that powers Half-Life 2 and Team Fortress 2 and Portal. And that is Galactic Cafe's 2013 release, The Stanley Parable.
I loved it.
Yeah, I'm so glad because you played it for the first time recently, right?
Literally today.
Oh my gosh.
But it is the one that I spent the most amount of time playing today. I don't have my Steam Deck with me, or I don't have Steam open, so I can't tell you how long I played it, but it was at least like an hour and a half, which is a fair amount. Like, it's not a very long game. That's enough time to get through like a couple of the endings.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe this game.
So it is a game where you are sort of it's like this weird little parable story that's trying to be told
You may or may not exist.
by Kevin, and the narrator is telling you who you are and what you're going to do, and it's this wonderful British voice actor Kevin Brighting, I believe,
Yep.
and he's like, when Stanley came across these two doors, he went to the door on the left.
But if
And
you
you
go
can,
through the right door.
yeah. So the thing is, you can totally follow the storyline all the way through, and that gives you one ending. But there's all the variations of just screwing around, of not doing what the narrator wants, of pissing off the narrator, to the point where if you ignore the narrator enough, he'll be like, "Fine, what do you want?" And like he'll like make a different game. Or I believe there's a few like sort of cameos of other games that he's like, "What do you want this game?" And it's like you're suddenly playing a different game. um, it is absolutely hilarious. It would, if you were to
So
classify
good.
it genre wise, it'd be a comedy walking simulator.
Yeah, that's actually pretty accurate.
And uh, it's very good. And I actually, so I replayed it recently, and I actually got one of my favorite achievements ever. The achievement is called Go Outside, and you get it by not playing the Stanley Parable for 5 years.
Oh my god.
And I didn't realize that, yeah, it had been 6 years since I played the Stanley Parable. Because you can just set your clock and cheat to get it, right? I legitimately got this achievement, and I had
Oh
no
my
idea it was going
gosh.
to. So funny. And that made me giggle so much that I bought the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, which is a new remaster that's available for new systems. But they also like kind of partially sneak in a semi-sequel like into the game. Like you're walking around and there'll be a new door that'll have new content, like a sign that says new content on it, and there'll be a door ajar, and you walk through this door and there's more stuff. And the narrator like takes you to like this memory area where like he's like waxing poetic about the release of the game. He's like, "Don't you remember how great it was?" And it's like all these like accolades and reviews that he's put on literal pedestals. And then like you walk further past that, he's like, "Oh no, what is all this?" And they're like shipping crates of Steam comments, and like it's negative comments, and he's like, one of the negative comments that you walk up to is like, "Man, the narrator was super annoying. He wouldn't let me just get on with things." He's like, "Annoying?" And you move on, and it's a really interesting meta commentary. I mean, the whole game is a great, interesting meta commentary on gaming, right? Like, there's several points in which he's talking about like DLC and honestly, I just forget. But like, this is a further meta commentary on the game itself. And so like he's like, I know what we can do. We can make the Stanley Parable too. And you walk around like a museum type area where he's like telling you all the features he's going to put in the sequel. And then like when you start the game again, like the main menu has changed to say the Stanley Parable 2. Um, it's ridiculous.
The
It is
narrator also changes at one point if you get to a certain ending.
Oh,
Like literally
yes.
the ending where you try to escape and you get you almost get squished to your, well, yeah, you do get kind of squished to your death. It's kind of uncertain because you know you don't really know if you're alive or dead or existing or not in this
Yeah.
game.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Yeah, and it takes you to
the weird like meta museum where it like
mm-hmm,
talks about like
the
different
make
versions of like what things looked like, and
the
it's
making
like,
of the game.
yeah, it has like artifacts of like things in the game, like
Yes.
all the
So,
buttons in a row so you can see what
oh,
different sounds everything
so,
makes.
so Ultra Deluxe, um after you've gotten to the past the point where he talks about the things he's going to add to the sequel, one of the things he's going to add to the sequel, he says, is the bucket of reassurance, so that players can hold on to the bucket to feel safe. And so whenever you play the game next, the bucket is like there in like that office area when you just leave your office, and you can pick up the bucket, and it changes the narration for like everything you do to be like, Stanley would have been afraid here, but he had his bucket. Like,
But he had his
and
bucket.
and if you get that particular ending, the sort of the second narrator is like, we have to save the bucket. The bucket does not deserve this ending, and that museum is, instead of being about the game, is entirely about the bucket.
That's kind of awesome.
Oh, it's
It's just
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
It's so funny. Oh, it's so good. So yeah, the next game we have on our list here is another walking simulator. Um, More about feels than laughs, to be sure.
Mm-hmm. This
Um,
one is Gone Home by Fulbright Company. The Fulbright Company came out in 2013. I loved this. You are basically returning home from a trip. Your house is empty. Your parents have gone like away for the weekend, but your sister is supposed to be there to greet you, but she's not. Your sister isn't there. So you're basically going around this new house that has a lot of like hidden passages and just like notes from your sister trying to figure out where she is.
yeah,
Um,
and you're just unraveling the story about this family, but also about your sisters very specifically.
mm-hmm. I also love the like Riot Girl undertones because the game takes place in like 94 or something like that, like somewhere mid 90s. So like peak Riot Girl, like Bratmobile, Bikini Kill, which is like, I love that style of like that genre of music. So
Mm.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. There actually at a couple of points is a Bratmobile pin. Like you see posters and pins for specifically Bratmobile.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about how much I want to spoil about this.
Yeah, it's LGBT friendly. We'll just leave it at
Yes,
that.
very
I
much.
don't want to spoil it, but it's,
Thank you for knowing exactly what I wanted to not necessarily spoil.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a
Which
big
like
recommend.
going into it too, I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, is this a horror game? I mean, like I've played so many horror games that like start out kind of like this, but it's very good. It's
It's
very
very
very good.
wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So
Yeah,
I guess complete opposite tonally
of
from
Stanley Parable. Yeah,
either of them, honestly.
yeah.
Uh, we have the rambunctious and loud Guacamelee
Punch the
by
things.
Drinkbox Studios. Same year, 2013 was a big year. Like the past bunch of games from Ridiculous Fishing, Stanley Parable, Gone Home, Guacamelee, and our next one, all in 2013. Big year for indie games.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the year that the new consoles had been released. So, big year for games in general. Yeah, Guacamelee is a Metroidvania where you are a luchador who dies and is resurrected as like a luchador superhero who has to stop like this undead maniac from merging the worlds of the dead and the living. And it is chock full of references, not just to like their other games, like the blob who came to attack, but like other indie games. There's a strong bad reference in there somewhere. Um, there's just so many references in the background that I just, it made me laugh so many times just seeing what they snuck in there. It's a really fun game.
I really enjoyed it.
I did not beat the final boss. It was too hard. It definitely, the final area ramps up in difficulty in a way that feels fair, but that I couldn't rise to the challenge. but I liked it all the way up till then, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
I really enjoyed it. I really liked, like it's all. I mean, obviously because it's luchador, it's all Mexican themed. I also happen to really like mariachi music, so that was a
mm,
plus. And it's really cool looking. Like it's the colors are really bright, but also the way that you navigate the world um, is really cool. Just, I mean, it's a pretty standard.
it has that XBLA like post like flash animation, but maybe a little bit like post flash animation, like that sort of Xbox Live sort of like look and feel to it, if that makes sense.
And sometimes you have to decide if you like, can you drop down here? Like, is it somewhere you can navigate to? Like, how do I
Mm.
get there? There's also points where you can navigate between the world of the living and the dead. And
So
sometimes
cool.
like you'll have to quickly move from one to the other and like combo into like a different like to do whether to break a block
Oh yeah,
or
and very quickly, like
yeah.
because at a certain point you get to unlock the ability to do it at will, and you have to like triangle jump between like two pillars that are one's in the land of the living, one's in the land of the dead. So your jump switch realms, jump switch realms, like
It's
it.
really cool. Like I definitely will have trouble navigating that when I get to it.
Yeah. Oh my
Um,
god. And speaking of references, how could I even forget? Definitely some Nintendo references in there. There was a reference to the like Mario dungeon theme in one of the levels, and the the way you unlock upgrades is by breaking Chozo statues, like from
yes.
literally Metroid. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we know we're a Metroidvania. Here's some Chozo statues.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I haven't played a ton of Metroid, but yeah, yeah.
Like I don't even know how they got away with that. That's just literally copy paste. It's
Eh.
great. I mean, I think it's comedic. It's fun. I liked it.
But yeah, that one's a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, so our last 2013 game is Papers, Please. It is a how do I describe this?
I don't know. I haven't played this one.
It's a puzzle game. It's like a one screen puzzle game where you are um you're like the sort of immigration office person. So you're in this little booth. People come along, like you can see the line of people trying to like come in and out of the country of like this fictional Eastern Bloc country. Um, Definitely very Russian Iron Wall vibes. And people say, "Hey, I'm this," and I was born this and that, and you take their passport and you look at it, and you like have to decide whether or not their papers are forged, and like approve or deny them. But like sometimes, like they'll give you their sob story. They're like, "Please, my son's in there. I need to do this. Like, please just let me through." And you're like, "Oh my god!" And you have to make the decision because you can decide either way to let them in or not, but it will have different consequences moving forward. It's a really cool, interesting game, and it's like it can be a little heart wrenching at different points,
Mm.
because like following the law and like doing your job and more often than not denying people entry to the country will determine like how much money and like um like whether or not your family gets to live in a nice apartment or not at the end of the level. Like
Hmm.
it is really really fascinating, really good game. um I'm pretty sure, and they made a I think it's like a 30-minute, they made a short film based off of this game. They made like a really really good short film that they brought to like Sundance and stuff off of this game. um
Nice.
it's a brilliant game. Like this is one that I watched I watched a streamer. I think I watched Jacksepticeye play it
I
first.
love him.
Yeah, and he brings a lot of levity to the playthrough, and like, oh look, it's Potato Man. I love this guy. Um, but then he like had to drop the like comedy nearing the end. He's like, oh my gosh, and I was like, okay, I have to play this. I have to play this game now. It's a great game. Papers, Please is a fantastic game. Um, yeah, oof. So yeah, and then we have um indie darling.
I'm ashamed to say I haven't played this next one. So many
Um,
opportunities, and I've just never. I don't even own it.
this game is a major Kickstarter success. Like, it was one of the if it wasn't the first, it was probably the biggest of it at its time, of successes on Kickstarter. Like, it was amazing to watch. So yeah, Shovel Knights is made by little indie studio Yacht Club Games. It was released in 2014, but the thing is that um, they made several campaigns where you play as different characters. And for the people who bought the original package or backed the Kickstarter, they gave them every single DLC for free as they came out.
Nice.
Like, they honored their thing so much, and it took years. It wasn't until like a couple years ago the final campaign came out. Like, they've been working on it for like half a decade. And it's so good. And so they've since rebranded like the whole package as like the treasure trove, and the original title where you play as Shovel Knight himself as like Shovel Knight, like Shovel of Destiny or something. I forget what they call it, but because now you can play as Shovel Knight, you can play with Shovel Knight, and then Plague Knight, Spectre Knight, and then the last one was King Knight. So Shovel Knight is this fantastic SNES inspired game. They gave themselves like the SNES color palette, except they added a few extra colors so that they could represent people of color in the towns better, because it was like not easy to actually make like black and brown people look reasonable on the SNES for the color palette. So they added a couple of colors. Like, they broke where it made sense. They made it in widescreen. Of course, they didn't restrict themselves to 4x3, but it was still very SNES inspired, to the point where the Japanese version has like a sort of pseudo like unlocalized thing going on. So like, they made the game. It's a Western studio. Like, you have like different foods in the game, and they like would translate the foods to like what do you call them? Rice balls.
Oh gosh. Oh
I'm
no.
blanking on that. Oh my gosh. But you know what I mean. So, and like, they changed the money from like this, like the standard coin, to like the coins with a hole in them. So they basically, when they made the
Onigiri, right?
when they
Onigiri.
onigiri, thank you. Um, so they basically, when they made the Japanese version, they treated it as if the Western original version was like had a bunch of localization changes, which is really funny. So they did a lot of really smart things on the dev side. But your main character, Shovel Knight, he plays a little like Mario, a little like, the screens feel a little like Mega Man, where it's a screen at a time, and you're solving like that screen's platforming challenge. But he also, the way he uses his shovel feels a little bit like the pogo sticking from the original DuckTales game. So like, it's really brilliant. They took all of the best ideas from the best SNES platformers and combined it, and like just modern tweaked it in a way that feels really satisfying to play. And yeah, the Plague Knight feels a little similar, but he's got some like explosive things going on. It's not hugely different. It's just kind of like hard mode. Spectre Knight like can grind on rails and do homing attacks, so it feels like a Sonic game in a way. It's very interesting. Like the 2D Sonic game that never was, with like this dark Spectre thing going on. And King Knight feels like a Wario game, like a Wario Land game. Like, he's big, he's got like the shoulder attack, he bounces off things, he's ridiculous, he loves money and gold. Like, it is a Wario game. And oh yeah, and when you're playing the game, it's got an overworld that's very much like Mario 3, or Super Mario World, I guess. Sort of overworld. It's just very charming game. I really liked it. Um, and I played that. Oh, and it's one of those games where each platform got its own special content. So I played it on the PlayStation Vita and the PS3, and the PlayStation version has a hidden Kratos boss, and if you beat him, you can unlock the Chains of Olympus,
Nice.
like Kratos' weapon. The Xbox version had a Battletoads boss.
No, no. I hate that. I hate
Hey,
that.
yeah, well, it's Xbox. They owned Rare,
I
right? Who
don't.
made Battletoads? So,
But I
um,
worked at GameStop. People would come in and ask for Battletoads. And I would just get increasingly angry every time everybody did it. So just like, ugh.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So I do forget which, if there was any regional differences for, um, oh, the game originally came out for the Wii U, so you can unlock a co-op mode early on by using the Shovel Knight, um, the amiibo. And actually, I think Shovel Knight was the first non-Nintendo amiibo, which is
Might
interesting.
still be the only non Nintendo. I can't think of any. Oh no, that's just kidding. They made a Diablo one.
Oh, okay.
But there aren't that many of them.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, each version got its own special thing, which was really cool. Um, yeah, I guess that's all I have to mostly say about that.
It's on my list. I will play it eventually.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I almost picked it up when they released the amiibos because I'm a sucker.
Oh yeah, we've got a Plague Knight amiibo because it looks so good.
The amiibos were such a cool thing. I guess we'll have to talk about that maybe next episode. Um, but I have a problem with them because they're good quality, they're cheap, and they came out
Mm,
with so many of them. Um,
yeah. So let's see. Well, I think the next one's definitely you
for
for games we're talking about here. So I have not played.
yeah, so the next one is Darkest Dungeon by Red Hook Studios, came out in 2016. It is a roguelike RPG, like it's a dungeon crawler. But the twist is you are given like a party, but if somebody in your party dies, you um like they die, like you have to replace them. So I didn't play this game correctly the first time, and I need to go back and revisit it. But I did. I think with my new strategy, it'll be good. Because I was just trying to keep everybody alive, and I'm like, I'm not going to let anybody die. Like this is going to be great. When I
Yes.
should have let certain party members die because they're either weak or I didn't like their abilities, and like kept
Mm,
like one or two of the other ones alive. Instead, I tried to keep everybody alive. I didn't pull myself out of the dungeon, and I
mm.
lost my
Yeah, because this
my
is this is
dudes.
a brutal
It's very
game that's
difficult.
about the permanent psychological damage that happens after these battles. So
Yeah,
like you can
yeah,
survive, but then like have a phobia.
yeah. Like
Uh,
part of it is you have to like keep them healthy. Like there's like a church you can send them to, a bar, and a couple of other things. Like you have to take care of them, and like you have to have people on standby because it takes like time for them
yeah,
to like recover.
and the battle system that's card based.
No, it's
Okay,
not.
I'm totally wrong about that.
If I remember correctly, it's not. No, it's
But,
like is it turn based? I don't remember.
oh my gosh, I think it's definitely turn based. I I think I was
I don't remember.
confusing
I
it.
didn't play it all that long ago either,
Yeah.
but I just don't remember. I didn't. I took notes on other games that I've played more recently. I did not make notes on Darkest Dungeon.
That's totally fair. I'll have to check this out at some point because I keep seeing it come up in game design discussions,
It's
and
hard, and I
it's a
don't normally
whole.
like hard games. Like I played Dark Souls for a very loud and profane hour, and never touched it again. Like I won't play it.
Yeah.
Um, I also went in the wrong direction, and I didn't realize you could go in the wrong direction, but you can, and it's hard.
Oh no.
But I usually don't like games that punish you like that. But Darkest Dungeon is like it has an element to it that almost makes it okay because one, you can replace the people, and two, you can like take care of them
Mm,
almost. So it's really interesting, and it's something that I'm definitely going to go back and revisit, replay, play more of. I'm going to just start a brand new game because I
yeah.
want a whole new strategy. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Cool. Hmm.
The next one was also one that I liked that you did not, and it's Owlboy by D-Pad Studios in 2016.
So, so to be fair, like I think it's very charming, and I
It
want to
is.
play it more later, but it didn't hook me, and it keeps not hooking me. But I really love the story of like the developer. He spent 10 years making this game. Like notoriously, he spent 10 years making this game from like 2006 until it finally released in 2016. Um, and it's got gorgeous like I don't know. I like it looks like GBA graphics to me, but in
Mm-hmm.
like super high def expanded way. It looks very charming, but it keeps not hooking me.
That's usually me and platformers. Like they don't usually suck me in, but Owlboy and Super Meat Boy were like the two Guacamole to an extent were like the exceptions. Like it has to be like
Hmm.
something really cool or really special for me to be like, yes, because I have such difficulty with platformers, like something has to appeal to me for me to be able to play it. And I really liked Owlboy, and it does get easier once you get the because I kept dropping my dude, like my friend. Like I just kept throwing him by accident. But once you get the teleporter, you can just get him back immediately. Like you don't have to find where you dropped him.
Yep.
Because I don't. It's an embarrassing amount how many times that happened. Whereas like I'm just gonna throw my friend at the boss, I guess, and not be able to shoot things. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna be playing that one a lot more. I put maybe an hour into it, maybe an hour and a half, just to test it out. And I'll
Hmm.
go back to that one for sure.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess was probably our last game for this episode. Is one that's wicked cool. It's one that I really enjoyed, and then I got to watch my wife really enjoy afterwards. Um, is Night in the Woods by Secret Lab and Infinite Fall. And they put this out in 2017.
This is
Um,
one I have a very special connection to because Scott Benson, who does the art for the game, also does the art for my absolute favorite band in the world, Streetlight Manifesto. He did some of their tour posters and T-shirts a while back. I don't think I purchased any of them. I might own one of them. I actually went through my Streetlight Manifesto merchandise, but I don't think that was all of it. They're like my favorite band to ever. I've seen
that's super
them
cool.
so many times, and to see, like, like I was aware of I saw the art on the T-shirts first, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting, and then I was like looking, and I don't remember if it was like Reddit or somewhere where it was like, oh yeah, he's also made a video game.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually played the like kind of unrelated prequel first. They made a game that is about the main character having a bedtime story read to them, and like you play the characters in the story. It's called Lost Constellation. It's up on itch.io, and you can still play it for I think it's free.
It's free.
Um,
I just looked.
it's wonderful. Like especially if you don't know if like if Night in the Woods happens not to be on sale for any at any point, and you want to know if you're gonna like it or not, like maybe check that game out too. Um, honestly, but yeah, Night in the Woods is super charming.
It is.
Like little 2D town. It is about like sort of towns whose industries have left, like towns that are dying. And like there's a lot of towns like that. I've met a lot
Think
of people who
Michigan,
hmm?
like the entire state of Michigan.
I've met a bunch of people who lived in towns from up our state,
Yeah, that
New
makes
Hampshire, who
sense.
lived like by like paper factories or something like that. Like I forget what it was, the actual industry, but like the industry dried up, and
Yeah.
then like the town itself becomes poor, and it's like people coping with that, and it's also about the main character May who couldn't handle college and had to come home and dealing with that. um and like all of it kind of comes together in this crazy Lovecraftian sense at the end. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it is really really interesting and really cool, and all of the characters are super charming. I love
Yeah.
enthusiastic Greg. I love his boyfriend. I forget his name, but he's a bear. He's
Uh, Not Alfonso, but it begins with an A or
Oh my god, I
something.
wish I could remember right now. I love B, who is like your goth best friend, like crocodile. Um, like they're all super charming characters. Like and they're not above like silly little mini games. At some point, they kind of make you play like a pseudo Guitar Hero for a little bit,
They sure do. I failed
which was
miserably.
oh, I think everyone fails miserably. I don't. I'm good at like a lot of those games, and I didn't do
Same.
so great either.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, whatever. It's in character. May wasn't practicing. Like the main character is a terrible person, a little bit,
Yeah,
so it's totally fine.
for sure.
It's just super charming. It's a great little like 2D run around town. Like I wouldn't call it a platformer. It's a story
No,
game
it's
with
like
like it's an adventure. It's an adventure
yeah,
game.
it's
It's
an
not point and
adventure.
click. It's a controller based adventure game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
I think so. Yeah, it's really charming. I definitely recommend it. And if you haven't listened to Streetlight Manifesto, also listen to them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but Scott Benson also did a music video for Thomas Kalnaki, his side project. He's the lead singer of Streetlight Manifesto, Toke. So his like acoustic side project, he did a music video that you can still find like unofficial versions on YouTube. There are some, I think, copyright issues or something.
Oh, okay.
They had like a big like Streetlight had a big battle with their uh
Publisher.
yeah, with their record label. They were on
Oh yeah,
Victory
yeah.
Records for a long time, which is like a notorious like cesspool of greed. Like any band that I've ever listened to that was on Victory isn't anymore because they're so awful to their
Oh no.
yeah, and I remember at the time like a lot of issues happening when they released their last album. I don't remember specifically what happened, but I think there were issues with his release too, if I remember correctly. But it's really good. Yeah, you should check it out. Any Sort of Certainty is the Toke um, music video that he did, and it's really pretty.
Yeah, yeah. I skimmed through. I haven't watched it properly yet, but
It's
like
so
the
good.
art is very much that Night in the Woods, sort of like simple shapes, almost like cardboard cutouts a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, but very like puppeted animation, um, like a lot of parallax layers with like good selective blurring uh, to like depth of field. That's what I'm looking for. The depth of field is the term I'm looking for. All things that they use in Night in the Woods to make that game really visually appealing. So all of that's in that music video too, which I was really excited to see.
Play it, watch it. If you don't like it, we can't be friends.
Fair enough. That's
Um,
totally fair.
so what are you gonna be playing?
Okay, yeah, I guess till our next episode, I'm gonna be continuing my 20th anniversary of Dot Hack journey by playing the. I'm putting down Link because I've done all the side content I could, and there's more to do, but it's not unlocking for me, so I'm gonna give up. So I'm gonna play the fighting game Dot Hack versus. There's an English patch, and it's a PS3 game, and it looks gorgeous, and it's so far been running really well.
I love fighting games.
Yeah, a fighting game with like I like story modes in fighting games
Yes.
because I like Tekken, and Tekken has a like Tekken 4 especially has had the best story mode, right? So
Yeah.
I like when fighting games have really cool story
There was
modes.
one Mortal Kombat, Armageddon had a really good
Mm.
story mode, and they haven't done it since. And it's like,
Ah,
come
okay.
on.
Well, we're gonna have to do a fighting game
We
episode
oh
at some
yeah, nobody wants to play fighting games with me, so
point.
I
I'll
just,
play.
we'll see for how long.
Oh no!
I don't
Oh
even say
no!
that as a humble brag. Like I've had strangers put the controller down and leave.
Oh goodness!
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, the Dot Hack versus it's like this 3D arena fighter that's like a very weird, strange mechanics, and I kind of love it anyway.
it
Um,
sounds like a blast.
and yeah, and I recently picked up Skatebird, which is an indie title that I've been meaning to get around to playing. It's a skateboarding game where you're little burbs, and
Verb.
it's super cute looking. And then I did pick up Stray, but my wife has dibs on playing it first. She just finished playing Miles Morales, and so she's got dibs on playing Stray before I do. So that's totally fair. How about you? What are you playing?
I'm gonna play more Back for Blood because I haven't made it all the way through um, the campaign. I'm gonna be playing Fortnite because there's an event happening. I'm probably gonna pick up Stray or either Bear and Breakfast. That's a game that we talked about in our like.
Upcoming cozy.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
One of them.
yeah, and it came out like a couple of days ago. So I'm gonna buy one or the other of those. I'm gonna play Doom Eternal. Damn it, I didn't play it. Um, and I was so excited when I bought it, and I haven't played it. So it's installed now. I installed it, which is a step in the right direction.
Well,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe if by the next time we have another episode or two and you haven't played it yet, we'll just have to like force ourselves to do a Boomer Shooter episode or something to force you to play it.
yeah, right.
To be fair, I also own it and haven't played it yet.
In my defense, I literally just bought it last Steam. It was one of the only games I bought last Steam sale. So
Nice.
But yeah, I think that is just about it for us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope that you are inspired to try out some indie titles because it's always good to support small creators. Give them your money, not EA or I don't know, any number of the other awful.
Oh yeah, I mean,
awful people.
Throw a dart, throw a dart at a dartboard of big studios recently. There'll be controversies left and right. Not that there aren't some controversies with.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You get Gamergate.
Yeah. But honestly, one of the things I like best about the indie games is just been like that community vibe, that like small stick it to the man vibe. They're always willing to show you how the sausage is made and talk about what tools they're using and how long it took them to make it, which I just, as a hobbyist dev, I eat that stuff up. I love it so much. So
it fits right in with that like punk riot girl vibe that is my soul.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, Gone Home hit hard.
It did. Yeah, Gone Home really did. It's tough because there's not really a lot to say about it without spoiling it. Like you can't, but it's so good. Like it's so good. Like I played it all in one sitting.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I guess in the Stanley Parable-esque narrator voice, the listeners were not sure if Lindsay and Sam were going to be going around in circles talking about the games on their list, or if they were going to say goodbye for sure. At this point, you
Goodbye.
looked at the